Hello. So, it is time for week 3 of OFC Season 10. We got a tough opponent for week 3, that's for sure. We got BrutalBjorn. They are also 1-1 like us, but they have had an interesting start to the season. And by an interesting start, let's just double check so I'm not wrong here. Where is it? Yeah. So, they got 6-0'd week 1, and then won 6-0 week 2. So yeah, about the most, like, polar opposite games as possible. And their team is terrifying. Shouts to Fat Rat for giving me a hand with this, even doing mocks with me for this one, because oh boy, is their team scary. They've got Dragapult, King Gambit, Enamorous Incarnate, Quaquaval, Clodsire, Rotom Heat, Azelf, Dashbun, Cryogonal, both of which can Terra, Knuckle and Vespiquen. So for me personally, like, it goes from, like, the bottom to, and as further as it goes up, like, in the tiers, like, in, like, the rows here, is how more likely each Pokemon, I think, is literally to come. The bottom 2, I do not see any reason for them to come. I see no reason for Vespiquen, even if it can Terra, to come. I see no reason for Knuckle to come. Azelf could come as a special offense Pokemon. It is faster than everything but Cinderace, but I don't see it. I think Enamorous does better into my team. Dashbun could come as a defensive Pokemon, just with Terra and maybe pass some wishes around, but I think they've got better defensive Pokemon here. And Cryogonal with Terra actually could be a pretty decent answer into Rotom Wash, or maybe even Ting-Lu. But I think they've got better answers into both of those Pokemon, so I'm not expecting that either. There's a possibility that one of them could come, but I don't see it. The one that I would guess they would swap out is maybe Rotom Heat, but I still think Rotom Heat has some pretty solid utility. It's great at Volt switching around, spreading burns against things like Ting-Lu, chunking things like Serena and Galastria, and also being a switch into Hyper Voice. Speaking of switching into Hyper Voice, Clodsire's big pain for our Sylveon. And our Rotom Wash because of Water Absorb, which means I can't touch the thing. I fully expect Water Absorb Clodsire here. I think there's no reason for them not to bring Clodsire. Quaquaval, see no reason for them not to bring it here. It's a free switch into Ting-Lu and can body it. And Quaquaval, with one Moxie Boost and Aqua Step, can win the game, which is exactly what it did last week for them and got 6 kills. It just led, got 6 kills, game was done. Enamorous Incarnate, very, very scary fairy type, especially for my double darks. Can go Calm Mind, can go physical with superpower, can go Specs, could go Scarf, but I doubt it here. King Gambit can win the game on its own if it comes in the late game or even the mid to early game. Terrifying Pokemon, faster than some of my slower things like Ting-Lu, Galastria, and Slowking. It's all faster than, and with a Swords Dance, it can win the game on its own, because King Gambit does that. And last but not least, Dragapult. You might think with 2 Dark types, especially one like Ting-Lu, that Dragapult should be a Pokemon that doesn't even come. Not true. Multiple sets of Dragapult could work here. Things like Will-O-Wisp Hex is very realistic and what I'm expecting. Will-O-Wisp Hex, a Dragon move, either Darts or Draco, and U-Turn can still do a ton of work here, even against Ting-Lu plus Hydreigon. Or even like a DD set can do really well in a late game, because they DDs and it'll be faster than Scarf Hydreigon, and can hit Ting-Lu on the physical side for good damage. If they get Ting-Lu worn down, then Dragapult can just win the game. So they've got a lot of really scary Pokemon. But we have some advantages in the matchup that we're going to hopefully take advantage of. Like I said, for this one I even did Mach Twitter at because I was worried about it and I got smashed. So I've adjusted my team accordingly, and I think I've got the best that I can come up with. So, let's get things started. Cinderace to begin with, because of course it's Cinderace. Why wouldn't we bring it? It's very rarely that I can think of a reason not to bring Cinderace. It outspeeds Azelf, this one, just in case they choose to bring it. It also means it outspeeds things like Cryogonal and Enamorus. Enamorus I fully expect, Cryogonal and Azelf could be things that do come. Power Ball, U-Turn, High Jump, Kick, and Court Change are the moves. It's the moveset with Heavy Duty Boots. We haven't gotten full into attack. We've got a little bit of bulk to allow us to switch in some weak hits. Such as like a weak Hex from Pult, we could maybe take advantage of, threaten a Sucker Punch even though we don't have it. Or some just not very powerful attacks like a defensive Rotom Overheat, for example, we can switch into and try and Court Change, because I don't expect them to bring T-Spikes on Clodsire here, but I do expect them to bring Spikes and Stealth Rock. Maybe not both, but at least one. So I want to make sure that I've got Court Change. I haven't brought Court Change yet, but I think this is probably the week for it. Power Ball can do a pretty reasonable chunk into a good amount of Pokemon. This is maybe a reason for Dash Button to come, because it's immune, but also they've got Rotom Heat, which is a pretty solid switch in. Quaquaval resists most things that I'm going to be going for, so yeah, pretty scary stuff. And obviously there's the faster Dragapult as well that we've got to worry about. High Jump Kick is just for Kingambit, and try and take that thing out. The bulk means we might be able to we can take a Sucker Punch if it's not boosted, and even with the bulk we might be able to take a one with a Supreme Overlord boost or two. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, generally good pivot and can do some pretty good damage and clean up in the late game if need be. Next up, Glastrier. Not a Glastrier set I thought I would be bringing, but here we are, and I honestly am surprised I'm bringing it again already. Not even, spoil it now, not even with Trick Room. We've got Icicle Crash, Close Combat, Terra Blast, and Swords Dance, and our Terra type is Fairy. Now, the reason for this is something that I identified is the fact that their answers to Fairies are actually not that great. They've got Clodsire, which is kind of their main answer to Fairies, and Rotom Heat, and that's it. That's the answers to Fairies. And that means Ice Fairy is pretty good coverage without Rotom Heat. So that just leaves a move that we need to hit Rotom Heat with, and while physically defensive Rotom Heat can take on this Glastrier pretty decently, even against physically defensive, Close Combat still does like 35%. Now there is an issue, because there's a Pokemon called Kingambit. But that's why we've got this Babiri Berry. So even if they try and threaten us with an Iron Head and be faster and all that good stuff, we've got the Babiri Berry. And if they want to predict, and try and predict us to Terra into a type that resists Steel, something like Water for example, that would be pretty reasonable, then we can still safely go for it. Terra Blast Fairy will do good damage into a number of Pokemon. It means we can super effective, like, with this set of coverage, unless they bring Rotom Heat, we're gonna be, like, OHKOing almost anything. I think Azelf can live, and Dash Bun will live, and that's it. So, Swords Dance is just there because, like, I don't expect myself to be clicking Swords Dance. If they give me a free turn, like, if I get this in for free against something like Clodsire, I'll take a Swords Dance for free. But the idea with Glastrier is we're hoping to kind of trade 2 for 1 with it. Get a kill, hopefully on Kingambit plus one other thing due to its bulk and them not having great ways to take out Fairy types. And hopefully be able to trade favorably with the Glastrier. If we do get it off, if we do get the Swords Dance off, that's great, but there's no has no intention to do so. So, Glastrier is hopefully going to kind of be a mid-game kind of breaker sort of thing. Next up, our dedicated lead, Scarf, Rotom, Wash. Now, those of you observant will immediately notice that this is not faster than Dragapult. In fact, we are purposely slower than it. This is a slow Scarf, Rotom, Wash that is the same speed as our Cinderace with the Scarf. Meaning that we should be slower than Dragapult, which is the expected lead here. Turn 1, we are always clicking Trick. Because the idea here is we want to hinder that Clodsire. Trick it a Scarf and hopefully make it useless for the game. That is the hope. So, with the Trick Scarf gone, and whatever item we get, even if it's a Black Sludge, I don't care, that's a worthwhile trade in my book. We've got some nice pivoting with Volt Switch, Hydro Pump, just 2 classic moves on Rotom Wash. The final move is Will-O-Wisp. Will-O-Wisp gives us a way to have something faster than Kingambit, be able to Will-O-Wisp it, and stop it being nearly as threatening. Otherwise that mon is terrifying. It's also, like, because we're kinda bulky, we can take on Quaquaval a little bit, not well, but we can at least take 1 hit non-boosted. I actually don't remember what the rest of the investment was for. My guess is that Hydro Pump OHKO's max HP Rotom Heat. That's my guess, and the rest into HP. I think that's what I did. But, yeah. This is our dedicated lead, and we're going to hope that we can get the Trick Scarf onto the Clodsire. If we can, that's amazing for us. If not, nothing really appreciates a Trick Scarf. So hopefully we can play that to our advantage. Next up, AV super bulky Galarian Slowking. This Slowking is designed to beat an Amoris. Similar to the Iron Valiant we went against last week, thankfully Slowking is one of the best answers to Fairy types, and this one's no exception. With this bulk, we are able to take 2 Specs Earth Powers from an Amoris after Rocks. That's just how bulky Slowking is. And then because we put the rest into special attack, we can chunk it back. I don't know exactly how much it does, but I know at least it's at least a 2-hit KO. It might be an OHKO after Rocks, we'll have to see. But other than that, we got Future Sight, because it's Future Sight, like, it's generally a good move to have. Focus Blast if I want to predict the Kingambit coming in, and Ice Beam for the Dragapult. Slowking is super solid here. It can take on special attackers like nobody's business, other than exactly Dragapult, because even Dragapult is going to give this thing some trouble. But if I can take 1 and smash it with an Ice Beam, I'll take that. But obviously this is mainly here for an Amoris, because physical sets can't really break it, it's only special sets, and even a Calm Mind set shouldn't be able to beat this one. So. Next up, probably going to be our win condition here is Sylveon, which is why we want the Clodsire crippled. Because even if +6, Clodsire beats us, even without Unaware. So, Wish, Protect, Calm Mind, and Hyper Voice. There's no guarantee, similar to Galastria, there's no guarantee we even go for a Calm Mind setup here. And for a while I kind of tossed about the idea, maybe I want Psyshock on this set, maybe I don't need Calm Mind, maybe I don't need Protect. I settled on Protect because there's a situation that comes up where if Rotom can't take on, what's it called? Quaquaval, then Sylveon's got to be the one to do it. And there's a chance that they bring a Quaquaval that can actually 2-hit KO Sylveon, unless I run Protect with leftovers. So I've got to run Protect with leftovers. So, if we do able to get this to a point in which it can start Calm Minding and winning the game, it will win. It basically requires Clodsire to be dead, though. But if Clodsire is dead, or crippled to a point with, like, a Scarf that can't really be used to beat Sylveon, we can win the game with Sylveon. I guess King Gambit as well. We need some chip on King Gambit / King Gambit gone, which Glacier is really good at setting up to do. So if we can get rid of King Gambit, Sylveon can pretty much win the game, as well as Clodsire. We need both of those God. Rotom Heat we don't need God, because we'll end up beating Rotom Heat. We'll beat Quaquaval. We'll at least take it out. We'll beat Enamorus, and we'll beat Dragapult. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Sylveon's going to do some work. Last but not least, Spadef, Tinglu, with Stealth Rock, Ruination, EU, and Whirlwind. Max HP, max Spadef. We're going to need something to take on Specs Dragapult, because if I disrespect it, I will lose. Though I don't expect it here. I'm expecting Hexpult, which is why we've gone with Ruination over something like Throat Chop, because I want to still be able to do like 50% to Dragapult. I don't actually expect to get Rocks up, because I expect as soon as Tinglu comes in, Quaquaval comes in, and like then I have to switch into something that deals with Quaquaval. So, you know, best of luck to me. But if I get half on it, then I'm going to call that a win, because then it dies to like a Volt Switch from Rotom, which is great. But if we are able to get some sort of hazards up, maybe Quaquaval goes down early, or something like that, or get the court change off with Cinderace, then we can start whirlwinding things around, and just bringing things in, making them take chip unless they've got boots, and allow Tinglu to be super annoying. So, it kind of feels like a mandatory bring because of Dragapult, and it is still a really good answer to Dragapult. Like, even Hydro Pumps are going to struggle to take out Tinglu. And even if they're Specs, then I can go to Glow King and sponge that for days. Maybe launch a Future Sight, or go to something like Rotom and take the hit and then Volt Switch out afterwards. More likely Glow King, I imagine, just because I can start Ice Beaming the thing. So yeah. That is the team we're playing later today. Wish me luck. I'm very nervous about this matchup. If we win it, it's going to be a miracle. I think their team is very well positioned against mine. So I'll see you guys for the match. And we are back. Unfortunately, if anyone saw the video that went up the other day, not a live commentary, not because I was lazy, not because I didn't think I would have good audio, not because I thought I was, not because I was like super concentrated mode, but because OBS decided that it didn't want to record my mic. Sometimes it just decides it doesn't want to recognize my mic and just defaults to nothing, and yeah, so now we have no audio. So, yeah, thank you OBS, I will be checking that in the future, despite using it earlier that day. Anyway, even if you saw the video that I put up yesterday, the other day, and actually got to see the match, you actually get to get it with some commentary. And I will give this one a bit more of a play-by-play because I remember this one pretty vividly. I haven't actually watched this back. Sometimes I watch them back, but to get an idea. But I remember this one pretty well. So, if you look at the matchup, everything came except for one Pokemon. You might notice the one I was pretty worried about, Clodsire. Clodsire actually did not come. Instead, they choose to bring Dash Bun. So I'm like, oh my god. This changes everything. So, I'm like, okay, well, I can still lead Rotom here. Rotom's still a really safe lead. I can Volt Switch on anything because they don't have a ground type. And get some information early. And then kind of get momentum from there. Especially if they lead Dragapult, I can get the like turn 2 like good for me. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna lead Rotom, they lead Dragapult. We say timing because we both put in the live battle link at the exact same time. So here they're gonna go for a U-turn. do 43% as I go out and as they go out to King Gambit, and I do 35% King Gambit as I go into Cinderace. This turn 1 is so big for me for like 15 different reasons. First of all, we learn what kind of Dragapult this is immediately. That's a Adamant Banded Dragapult off the bat. So yeah, that's really good to know, because oh my god, knowing that means that like, I know that Sylveon is going to be pretty good for taking this thing on. Now I do learn that on the standard showdown band set, apparently they do run Double Edge, so that's probably the move that Sylveon's going to have to worry about, and that does 2-hit KO, sometimes even after like a Protect plus lefties. So I've got to be a bit careful of that. The other thing as well is we get the Volt Switch damage on King Gambit, which is obviously great, but that did more than I was expecting, and so I look, and that is not a HP invested King Gambit. That's a fast King Gambit. That's not running HP investment at all. It's not running an Assault Vest. So that means it's probably got a speed to outspeed Sylveon. So that means I'm like, okay, that means even if I set up Sylveon, King Gambit can come in with a faster Iron Head and take me out. Presumably if they've got a bit of chip, because I think if I'm full HP and even with a Supreme Overload too, I didn't check, but I was like, I probably can't set up Sylveon until King Gambit's gone, because like it can't beat King Gambit will just come in once I'm chipped and just take me out because it's faster. I go into Cinderace because I was thinking, what's the best thing I have that can threaten this thing? And the only thing that, as a result, I've got faster than it is Cinderace. So I'm like, well, I'll go into Cinderace, I threaten it with Pyro Ball, which will probably kill, I'll threaten it with I Jump Kick, which obviously I have, if they want to go into Rotom. But they've got the dash button, obviously, so I've got to be a bit careful of that. So, here I'm going to go for a U-turn, as they go out into Rotom. Do 15%, not too bad, just a max HP Rotom from what I can tell, and I go out into my own Rotom, just saying, listen, like, you're not going to kill me, and I will kill you, so show me what you got, because without Clodsire, they don't have a lot for this. So I'm just like, cool, I've got my Rotom in, I'm Scarf, so I'm probably faster, especially because it's max HP, and we get a nice 20% chip on this Dragapult as I go into Sylveon. I'm like, cool, I've got Sylveon in, like, I get the chip on the Rotom, so that's brilliant. I've got chip on this Dragapult now, which is nice. And Sylveon in, it's like, cool, because it's physical defensive, so I'm like, okay, well, I can take the hits, like, if it goes for Phantom Force, as, like, for the Ghost move, I've got a Tinglu, I don't think they can click Phantom Force, and I can see what their best move to hit me with is, because I've got Protect. Even if they switch here, I feel pretty good, because the only real thing that can come in is King Gambit, so, we'll see. Oh, I don't Protect, I just go for a Hyper Voice. Yeah. Yeah, because I was like, why? Well, because they could just hard into King Gambit, so, let's go for a U-turn, go into Rotom, and I do 21, and I'm like, cool. I think it looks to be more Fizz Def at this point. Rotom's their only resist at this point, so I'm just like, cool. I'm just going to Protect, get some Leftovers recovery, and scout for Trick as well. Despite it hard switched on my Rotom, so I was like, I'm going to check for Trick. I haven't seen anything from this Rotom. It's max HP. It could be like max HP. It wasn't max. It could have been like max HP, max speed, or max HP, max special attack. Like Trick Specs or something. Maybe a Trick Band and just be bulky offense. I don't know. I just want to see what it wants to go for before I you know, lose my Sylveon. Play it safe. Get some Leftovers recovery. They just go for a Volt Switch, and then they follow it up with a Will-O-Wisp as I go for another Hyper Voice. So I'm like, cool, if that's all you're going to do, and plus now I've seen you switch moves, I'm not afraid of you, I'm just going to stay in here. They hit me with the Will-O-Wisp. I'm like, that's fine. I'm just slowly chipping down this Rotom. That's what? How many? So that's... I've only hit this thing with Hyper Voices, and they've been doing, like, 20 to 23. So got high roll with that one. And as a result, they go for a Hex here, do some decent damage, and my Hyper Voice ends up taking them out. Now, the Hex damage is pretty big, and also the burn kind of negates my leftovers for the game. But that's like a trade I'll take. That's the only Fairy Resist down. So that's great for me. Sylveon doesn't have a resist at this point, so I'm thinking, great. I feel brilliant here. So, they go back into pull, and I'm like, alright. They can click Double Edge here, as their best move to hit me. So I'm thinking, so I just scout first, I've got Protect, I may as well, and they do go for the Double Edge. I'm like, well, I don't have to lose Sylveon yet, it's still pretty good. I just decided to go into Ting Lu, because that's the best thing I've got at this point, to take a Banded Double Edge, get some recovery, and then I'm like, well, I can either just go for the hit here, or I can try and get up rocks, but I'm like, I know Quaquaval's coming in, so I'm just going to go for an Earthquake and get some guaranteed damage on that. Getting almost 50% with an Earthquake, brilliant. Obviously, Ruination would have done guaranteed 50%, but I didn't want Pult staying in and just, like, living. I think Earthquake was probably going to do a good chunk to pull, and, like, if it wanted to just keep spamming Double Edge until it died, I think I, like, at least trade with it, and, like, I'm fine with taking that trade. Quaquaval comes in, and it's like, well, that thing is terrifying. So, I need to go out into something that can deal with it. And, Rotom, despite taking some damage, is, like, still pretty decent. Obviously, I've got to worry about close combat. I think, because it's, like, it's a decision between Rotom and Sylveon. Both of my checks to this thing are chipped. So, I've kind of got to play it a bit safe with it. So, I don't actually remember which one I go to here. I think it's Rotom. No, I stay in. Oh, right, because, yeah, so I calced it, and I'm like, close combat doesn't kill me. So I'm like, I'm just going to stay in and see what happens. And they U-turn, which was a really good play to catch my switch. But I also find out that this is banded as well, and I'm like, oh, no. That's terrifying. So, yeah, so this is banded as well. So a close combat, or I think even an Aqua Step would have killed me. But I wasn't expecting banned, so... this is also Adamant banned. So, yeah, this is terrifying. They go into Enamorus just, like, expecting an Earthquake, which is fair. And they get an Enamorus for free. And I'm like, alright, well, I have a Glow King. Let's go to it and see what happens. They go for Moonblast. It does 14%. And that is actually specs. That is how bulky Glow King is. And how much of a beast it is. Because it took nothing from that. Tinglu's got still, like, 40% left. So it can still take, like, a hit. Probably can take a King Gambit hit pretty decently. So, it's looking good. Take a sip of water here. Oh dear. Yeah, I haven't been up too long, so my throat's still a bit dry. But I'm like, alright, well, there's no chance you stay in. I'm the bulkiest Slowking on the planet. And now I kind of know your team. You've got two banded Pokemon. You've got a Dachshund that hasn't come in yet that's gonna be defensive. And you've got a King Gambit. And this specs an Amorous. There's no way you go to Pult, so I'm gonna go for a Focus Blast here. And I get it right. They go into King Gambit. I land the Focus Blast. I was, like, holding my breath. I was like, please. And I get the King Gambit on the switch in, taking it out. And I was I was so happy. I was popping off because getting King Gambit out of here, I mean, that opens up Sylveon now. Sylveon can theoretically win the game if it wasn't for the fact that they've got 2 banded Pokemon, so it kind of can't. But in the moment I was like, Sylveon can win the game now, but looking back, it absolutely can't. Not with both banded Dragapult and banded Quaquaval. So, King Gambit goes down, they go into Quaquaval. I go into Rotom, because I don't expect them to close combat me. Knowing they're banded, I'm like, there's no way you close combat. You're going to go for an Aqua Step. So, they go for an Aqua Step. They get the speed boost here. And I actually don't know the speeds here. But I'm pretty sure, even if they're adamant, they would normally outspeed me. But, so I'm not max special attack investment. I'm modest, but I've only got a good amount. So if they're doing calcs as well, they probably think I've, because even if I'm max speed modest Scarf, I will outspeed them. But if they think I'm timid Scarf with just some HP investment, then I will outspeed them. So as a result here, they switch out. I was fully expecting Rotom to go down here. But instead they fear the faster Scarf, which I am Scarfed, and I do go for a Volt Switch, and this is really big for a couple reasons. Now they're pretty sure that, like, Rotom is going to be outspeeding them, because I felt confident just outspeeding them here. But I thought I was going to go down, so Dragapult comes in, takes another bit of chip, and then we went back into Sylveon. I think I protect here, just to scout, right? No, I just go for it. And just choose to make the trade here. I'm like, nothing at this point can really take on a banded Double Edge. Excuse me. So nothing can really take on a banded Double Edge. And Sylveon can't set up and win. This is when I recognize Sylveon can't set up and win. There's 2 banded Pokemon. Nothing can really switch into this banded Dragapult. So I've got to make the trade and kind of say, okay, Sylveon, you're not going to win this game, but you're at least going to trade with this Dragapult. Now, I could have made this trade way earlier in the game. And save some damage on Ting-Lu looking back. But, like, I didn't know it was going to be banded Quaquaval either. So, yeah. We made the trade. Dragapult goes down. And in comes Quaquaval, which, now that Rotom's low and Sylveon's low, I don't really have a switch in for. So, I want to scout for what move it goes for. It goes for Aqua Step. It's got no reason not to click Aqua Step at this point. And they go for it. Take me out, gets +1 speed, and guess what I did not realize at the time? They did not get an extra stat on top of that. There is no attack increase here. They are Torrent. They are not Moxie. I don't know if that's a mistake on their end, but I did not realize at the time. I just saw them gain stat, and I was like, okay, they just got +1/+1. Despite this, Glastrier can still take a hit, so I'm gonna go into Glastrier. If they want to stick around and try and break me, I think I immediately go for a Terra Fairy, Terra Blast, just to get some, just to try and take this thing out. But they go into Dash Bun, I Terra Fairy, go for a Terra Blast, and do a decent chunk to this Dash Bun. That is a physically defensive Dash Bun that is coming in here, so it's like, cool, that thing is, and I know what the thing's deal is. It's here to check Cinderace, because offensive Cinderace actually looked pretty threatening against their team. Like, if I brought, like, a Life Orb Cinderace, like, because Rotom's not a switch-in. Rotom is not a switch-in to Life Orb Cinderace. Whereas this Dash Bun is. So, I do forget, I go out here, go into Ting-Lu, as I go for a Terra Poison and Wish. I'm pretty sure at this point I recognize, because of how the game is played out, Originally going in, I was like, okay, Glastria, because it's so bulky, I'm going to use that to 1v1 and make sure King Gambit doesn't go off. Now, I'm like, okay, it is the only thing on my team that I do not think gets OHKO'd by Quaquaval, so I need to keep it alive and keep it at full HP so I don't lose to this banded Quaquaval. So I don't want to take any more damage. I can't really hurt the thing because it's like it will just wish and heal off. So I want to go to Ting-Lu. I don't even remember why I went to Ting-Lu. I think it was just like scouting, just to see what it went for. So, but here I'm like, alright, well, here are your options. You can stay in and attack me, but I'm a Ting-Lu, so I am going to Earthquake you. There's no way that Dash Bun can kill me. I'm like looking, I'm like, does it have Iron Defense? And I missed it. No, it doesn't get Iron Defense. It does get Body Press, but it doesn't get Iron Defense. It can play rough. It can maybe Terra Blast. I'm like, there's no way it can kill Ting-Lu. They're gonna switch. And either mon they switch into here, if I go to Rotom, which is what I do, they go for a Baton Pass, and they go into Quaquaval. So, like, me switching into Rotom is so big here because, you know, I'm a Scarf Rotom. I outspeed both things that can come in, so they've got to make a choice on what happens here. So, even though they get the Wish off, Rotom's going to do a massive chunk. I do outspeed, which, you know, at least to them still confirms that I'm, like, a fast Scarf Rotom. Not bluffing them at this point. I've at least shown that I'm faster than Adamant Quaquaval. And I'm like, I've just got to let something go and make sure Glastria can come in for free. And the Pokemon I think is least valuable is Cinderace. So, goodbye, Cinderace. I'm pretty sure... No, I don't realize at this point that it's Torrent. But if you notice, it is Torrent, because it's not getting an attack boost, and I did not notice this at the time. Thankfully, I believe Glastria can take a Torrent Aqua Step, because of its 130 physical defense, so we're good there. Glastria can come in, and I'm like, okay, I can make a mid-ground play, I can go for Icicle Crash. I don't really want to go for Close Combat, that seems bad, because if they switch, then it's going to do, like, nothing. And I'm like, if I go for an Icicle Crash and miss, and they just stay in and go for the kill, I will die. I will lose the game. So I'm like, I'm just going to go for a Terra Blast. They bring in Dash Bun expectantly, but I'm like, that is not a risk I am willing to take. So, I think I switch out here into Glow King. Yeah, because I'm like, they might go for a Fairy move. I don't need to bring in Ting-Lu at this point. They go for a Wish here, and I think here they go for the Protect as I go for a Sludge Bomb, right? Because I'm trying to catch the Quaquaval switch in. Like if they try and switch into Quaquaval, get some health on it, or if they try and get an Amorous in for free, I'm going to do a ton of damage to that. So here they go for a Door Protect, trying to scout for Psychic, but I've got Future Sight, so I'm like, cool. I'm fine with that. So they Baton Pass into an Amorous. As I just go for a Sludge Bomb, they get and I get a Lucky Poison here. I say sorry, and we talk about it a bit here, in a sec, you'll see on the side. So the roll was 37.5 to KO, apparently, with the HP investment that they had, and then there's the 30% chance to poison, so it was about 50-50, to KO. So, wasn't the end of the world, but it still sucks. Especially because of Future Sight. So, which is a big deal here, because I'm like, alright, I can stay in with Glow King here, and I just get bopped. And then Future Sight happens and takes out the Quaquaval. And I was like, how? There's no way, right? And that's when I realized it's Torrent after it's dead. Because it can't KO me without Torrent there. I was like, this thing can't kill me, I can just go for a Sludge Bomb and Glow King can clean up this game. But no, it can't because of Torrent, so yeah, that kind of sucks. But, you know, it is what it is. If it was a mistake on their end, I ended up paying off here because they ended up killing up Glow King, which they wouldn't have done otherwise. So, Quaquaval does go down. Yeah, so 37.5, and with poison is about 50%. So, yeah, it was about a 50-50 with the poison chance. So I'm like, I will bring in Tinglu because it's a poison type, so I'm going to go to Tinglu. They reveal Body Press, and I go for an Earthquake, and because I'm slower, that's not going to kill. And I'm like, I want to preserve Differential, I'm going to go to Glastrier here. And try and, you know, win with Glastrier instead. So they go for a Wish, and I'm just going to start setting up Swords Dancers to win this game. I go for a second Swords Dance in case they want to go for Protect. I know they're full set now. They can't hurt me because I'm Terra Fairy. And I'm able to just go for the Icicle Crash, take this thing out with an unnecessary crit, and get the game 3-0. So, yeah, really, really happy with this one. Really happy with my play, and how I positioned myself. Not letting Galastria take too much damage, or any damage until, like, the last Pokemon, making sure I had an answer to Quaquaval, was really good. The fact that I had that option of just, like, threatening a Scarf Rotom, which I was, just not one that was faster than Adamant Quaquaval, but it's something I had to consider, and, like, they had reason to believe that I was faster. So, yeah, I'm really happy with that play. It was definitely close, though. It was definitely close. While it was a 3-0 win, if that Quaquaval got, like, damage off, then it was going to be really terrifying. If I didn't get that poison on an Amorous, I probably would have had to... I probably would have sacked... I would have sacked Glow King. So, like, the poison going off... I'm trying to think, because, like, because of Future Sight coming in, which actually, knowing me, I would have forgot about, but if I did remember it, I would have been like, alright, well, Slowking can probably take a hit, whereas Tinglu can't, so I'm going to try and go to Tinglu, and sack Tinglu there, and then I can bring in Rotom. If they go for, what's it called? If they go for Moonblast, if they go for Earth Power, I probably live. So, I think that was the idea. If I, so instead of having Glow King, then I would have had Tinglu that, Dash Bomb probably comes in, as I go for, probably a Hydro. No, I'd probably Volt Switch. I'd probably Volt Switch into Galastria. I don't think Volt Switch would kill at that range, because it was at, like, 70. Going to Galastria, and if they wish, then, you know, they wish, and I try and go for a Terra Blast to make sure that the Quaquaval doesn't get in for free, and then I just, like, Swords Dance on this